So good morning, everyone. It's our pleasure to welcome you to this webinar on solar dividends. My name is Ronnie Lipschitz, and I am President and Chief, as I wrote here, Bottle Watcher at the Sustainable Systems Research Foundation, a green project incubator in Santa Cruz. And the webinar is being presented as part of our renewable energy program. So before we begin, a few housekeeping rules. Please be sure you're muted until we get to question and answer. If you have questions, you can put them during the presentation, you can put them in the chat. And after Robert is finished, we'll open it up to live questions and answers. If you didn't register for the webinar, please put your name and contact information in the chat. As I said, we're recording this webinar for later viewing, and we'll let you know where it can be seen. And I think that's all that I need to mention in terms of ground rules. I mean, all of you have done this before, I'm sure. Our speaker today is Robert Staten, a senior fellow at the Sustainable Systems Research Foundation and a lifelong advocate for solar energy. He has degrees in physics and science communication and has taught physics and solar energy at Cabrillo College in Aptos, California. He's the author of 2 books on solar energy, the most recent one, Solar Dividends, How Solar Energy Can Generate a Basic Income for Everyone on Earth. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn the floor or the screen over to Bob.
All right. Can you see my slides? Yes. Okay. We are here today to show you how to convert your temporary guaranteed income pilot program into a permanent program using solar dividends. Solar dividends represent an entirely new approach to funding basic incomes. With solar dividends, you generate and sell solar electricity to pay for guaranteed incomes. As far as we know, this has never been done, probably because it requires 2 different skill sets. For example, our organization knows community solar, but we have no experience with managing guaranteed incomes. You have experience in guaranteed incomes, but have probably not considered using solar energy to pay for them. So we're looking to collaborate, to bring our strengths together into a partnership to create a sustainable guaranteed income program. You're already familiar with the many benefits of guaranteed incomes as demonstrated by the various pilot programs you may be involved in. These benefits include individual financial relief, improved family stability, physical and mental health benefits, and educational opportunities. Currently, over 100 guaranteed income pilot programs are operating in the US. But pilot programs have only temporary funding and must come to an end. That means your planning must include how to transition recipients off their guaranteed income. Temporary also means participants have a harder time making major life adjustments during the program, knowing that the support will end. And temporary also means that we have no good long-term studies of the effects of guaranteed incomes. But because of the good results reported by the pilot programs, there is a push now for permanent programs. But that will require a large and permanent allocation from a jurisdiction's budget. Most government budgets don't have room for such a major and permanent addition. So new taxes would have to be imposed. And it's safe to say that tax increases are not popular and will be met with resistance. We have developed a new funding model that provides a pathway around this roadblock, investment. An investment can generate money, and that generated money can be used to pay monthly guaranteed income checks. This gets around the barrier of needing to allocate taxes every year. But what kind of investment would be the best? Most people think of stocks and bonds, but they are volatile and carry considerable risk. Warren Buffett is on record as saying, US financial markets have become almost totally a casino. Also, to get started in the stock market, you need a large endowment to invest, and you need to pay a professional fund manager to buy and sell stocks. But there is an alternative investment, generating money from nature. And there is actually one precedent for this kind of investment using it for basic incomes, and that is the Alaska Permanent Fund. In the 1980s, the state of Alaska set up an investment fund from the royalties paid to the state from oil companies extracting Alaskan oil. They invested the money in stocks and bonds and used the returns to pay all adult residents of Alaska an annual dividend. As a basic income program, it is unique in two ways. It has operated longer than any other, over 40 years, and the funds are derived from a natural resource, not from taxation. However, due to stock market fluctuations, the payments have varied widely over the years, from a low of $331 to a high of over $3,000 per year. Because it fluctuates every year, recipients have learned they can't rely on it, so it hasn't altered lives very much. Also, the earnings from the endowment are a temptation to the state legislature, which has at times diverted some of the revenue to fund state budget. Their program is hard to duplicate because few places have such large oil revenues relative to their small population. So this situation is unique to Alaska. But another natural energy resource is available everywhere, and that is solar energy. Solar energy is the one natural resource that could do what oil does for Alaska, but almost everywhere. The term solar commons captures the idea that solar is a resource for everyone. Utilizing the solar commons as a resource to fund community benefits is based on two core facts. Solar energy is widely available, and you can sell electricity generated from solar panels. The basic idea is that a community installs a solar farm on a sunny location, sells the electricity to customers, and uses the money for community purposes. You're taking something that belongs to everyone and finding a way to share its benefits with everyone. This can be done by a government or by a nonprofit. Community solar farms can integrate into the community much better than pure industrial solar. These images of mixed-use solar panels show how solar energy can be scaled and sited in environmentally friendly ways and can be owned by nonprofits, cities, co-ops, or investors. This idea is the basis for another nonprofit organization, the Solar Commons Project, which was started by Catherine Mellon at the University of Minnesota. Their purpose is to demonstrate the use of solar trust funds for a variety of community purposes. Their mission statement is to demonstrate how to gather the sun's common wealth through solar panels and to turn it into a peer-governed revenue stream for reparative justice work in low-income communities. At one of their project sites in Arizona, the Solar Commons Project uses school participatory budgeting. The kids distribute the sun's commonwealth every year in their neighborhood. This photo shows the Solar Commons mural they have on their schoolyard wall. It illustrates that the sun's commonwealth can be shared equitably and between generations, like water and seeds. Solar dividends are the application of the Solar Commons concept specifically to guaranteed income. It is a monthly dividend from an investment in solar energy. The idea is to build a community solar array dedicated to the purpose of generated guaranteed incomes. Of course, when money is involved, trust is essential. The Solar Commons Project has addressed that by developing the Solar Commons Dashboard, which is an online information portal to monitor the solar performance and the money administration. It provides engagement by being accessible to all stakeholders, and it provides transparency with enough information to ensure trust. Using solar dividends for guaranteed incomes has many advantages. The money source is not from taxes, so the whole fight over raising and spending taxes is avoided. The solar revenue stream is steady and reliable when it's averaged over several years of solar performance. The revenue stream is sustainable because solar energy is unending and the panels themselves last for decades. And the funding source is local to the community, so control of it is entirely local. Wait, there's more. Importantly, the system can scale up by adding more panels to support more people. In fact, it could scale into a truly universal basic income. And of course, the solar panels have many environmental co-benefits, including reducing greenhouse gases and air pollution, among others. If necessary, the system can pay for itself. You can use some or all of the solar revenue to pay off the original construction loan. However, that would, of course, reduce or delay the benefits. There are potential challenges that have to be overcome for this idea to work. Utilities want to minimize what they pay out for any electricity you export to them, so they offer low rates. And there are regulatory requirements to building and connecting a solar farm. Those requirements vary from state to state. And of course, you need to get community buy-in. Because of these challenges for community-owned solar, guaranteed income advocates may want to collaborate on the solar side. You can work with people who are successfully overcoming the challenges of creating real community solar projects. The U.S. Department of Energy has been supporting and advocating for innovations in community solar for the past decade. They run national competitions like this Sunny Award Prize. The Solar Commons Project won a Sunny Award in 2022. The Department of Energy has a list of successful community solar projects that might be interested in collaborating to fund a guaranteed income program. At this point, you're probably wondering, this sounds great, but can it really work? And the answer is, that depends. It depends primarily on three conditions: the amount of solar radiation at your location, the availability of a suitable site for a community solar farm, and the arrangements for getting paid for the solar electricity. So let's take each of these factors in turn. Determining the solar radiation at your location is the easiest. The government's PV Watts online solar calculator can give you a quick first estimate. You input your location and it looks up the closest solar data, and you input the size of the solar array in kilowatts. Then it calculates the number of kilowatt hours produced per year by that solar array at that location. This is the input screen showing the system size and other variables. And this is the output screen that shows the monthly and annual kilowatt hours of electricity produced. When you use PV Watts, these numbers will be specific to your site and to your array size. The second factor is finding a suitable site for the community solar farm. This is a local resource specific to your situation. You will need roughly 6 to 8 acres per megawatt of solar. Dual use of the land sidesteps the high cost of land purchase. So look into parking lots, unused government land, rooftops, retired landfills, highway medians, airport buffer zones, and even consider agrivoltaics, which is doing farming and photovoltaics on the same land. The third factor is how you get paid for your solar electricity, and I would say it is the single most critical factor. Utilities try to minimize what they pay. To them, you are a wholesale supplier and should get only low wholesale rates. It's better to sell directly to consumers of electricity to get higher retail rates for your power. A power purchase agreement can do that. In a PPA, an electricity consumer contracts to buy your power on a long-term basis at a fixed rate that rises slowly with inflation. You can get the higher retail rate with this arrangement. There are also tax credits that reduce the capital outlay, and of course, you must take into account additional expenses like overhead and maintenance. Let me show you a hypothetical example that shows the potential for guaranteed incomes when all the factors align. Let's look at the Hudson Up Guaranteed Income Pilot Project in Hudson, New York. They have 128 participants getting $500 per month for 5 years. That amounts to $6,000 per year for a total of $30,000 per person over the course of the 5-year pilot project. We can do some back of the envelope calculations to show the potential of investing for solar dividends. This project had to raise $3.84 million to make those payments for 5 years. With that money, you could purchase outright a 3.3 megawatt solar array. That array could generate 4 million kilowatt hours per year in Hudson, New York, according to PV Watts. If that array is part of a power purchase agreement that receives the average retail price for power in Hudson, which is 20 cents per kilowatt hour, that would generate $800,000 per year in solar revenue. Divide that revenue by the 128 participants, and you get $6,250 per year, which would add up to $31,250 over 5 years, which is about the same amount that you invested. But after 5 years, the solar array does not stop. It continues generating money. In fact, payments can keep going for 30 years, the lifetime of the solar panels. Over the 30-year period, each participant would receive a total of $187,500. So the difference between spending and investing becomes apparent over the long term. If you spend the $30,000 per person, you get $30,000 in benefits. If instead you invest the $30,000 in solar, you see over $187,000 in benefits. That's over 6 times the benefits. And of course, as an added bonus, you help your community achieve their greenhouse gas goals. We see 2 approaches to dispersing the benefits. One is to invest for an adult. The adult would begin receiving monthly payments as soon as the system is operational and generating revenue. And this approach meets current needs. It can lift the recipient out of a poverty situation and deliver the many well-established benefits of a guaranteed income. In this case, the longer term for payments allows longer term changes in their lives. The other approach is to invest in solar for a child. The first years would put the money generated into a trust fund for the child, like baby bonds, and then deliver that lump sum at age 18 as their starting capital or college tuition. That could amount to over $100,000. And then 12 more years of monthly checks to support their life as they start out in their career. This is a long view investment to help them avoid falling into poverty in the first place, to get them set up in life with a solid financial foundation. Parents and grandparents could even invest to ensure their child's future. Instead of buying your kid a new car, invest in solar dividends and deliver a guaranteed income for the first 30 years of their life. Now I have to say your mileage will vary. These numbers mean nothing for your location. The 3 major factors, solar radiation, site availability, and revenue arrangements, are all site specific and will determine whether this is feasible for you. So you won't know if this can work for you until you run the numbers. However, the good news is that the numbers are knowable. The solar radiation, the kilowatt hours generated, the revenue produced can all be predetermined. It requires research and analysis of your situation. It may also require a bit of creativity for your situation. The point is, you can build sufficient confidence in the numbers before you make any commitments, thereby reducing the risk and solidifying support for your program. As you work through the details, keep in mind the following overarching principles that guide this work. Solar energy is inexhaustible. The sun will not be depleted. Solar energy is available everywhere to a greater or lesser degree. Solar energy carries economic value, allowing money to be generated from it, and no one owns the sun. So there is no reason why everyone can't be entitled to a share. With everyone sharing in the value generated by our primary energy system, the sun, We can build a fair and sustainable foundation for a new economy. Implemented in all countries, solar energy becomes a unifying force for all humanity. So how do you get started? Well, you can download the Solar Dividend Starter Kit, a PDF file describing the steps to doing solar dividends. The link for the Solar Dividend Starter Kit is in the chat if you want to check it out. As I said, this requires two knowledge areas: solar energy construction and guaranteed income management. So a partnership is probably the best solution. We are seeking partnership with a guaranteed income program to implement solar dividends. We are inviting you to contact us if you want to explore how we might work together to convert your temporary pilot into a permanent program. We'll help you run the numbers. So join us if you want to take your program to the next level. Are there any questions?
If you have questions, why don't you go ahead and raise your hand, and we will call on you.
Are there any in the chat?
Gregory, you need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, hello. Yep, so my name's Gregory King. I'm the president of Boston Community Solar Cooperative. We're a community-owned solar developer. Really, thank you for your presentation. We're struggling with one big challenge, which is in our model, we're developing sites, community members own the site, they get passive income from the electricity we sell to off-takers through purchase power agreements. However, we've run into a bit of a entanglement around our ability to gift shares in the cooperative to low-income community members who can't afford to purchase a share because of security regulations. And I'm just curious if you guys have a solution for that particular problem. Again, our model is we're really looking at making certain that we're organized under the cooperative laws of the United States. We have workers who are paid and can earn ownership. We also have subscribers who purchase the power, who are members. And then lastly, we have investors. And it's in that investor category. We stood up a solidarity fund. We wanted to try to gift shares to community members who couldn't afford a share. And we've run into the security problems and some tax consequences. And I'm curious if you guys have any solutions for that particular problem, because it's one that's quite perplexing for us since we went on this journey primarily to try to address how to create passive income for low-income families.
I would say our financial model is a little different. Because we're not selling, or we're not asking people to pay for the electricity as part of the co-op. We're basically using a co-op to generate a revenue stream that would go directly to designated low-income people in the community. So we wouldn't have the same kind of subscriber setup that you would have, and I'm not sure how to respond to your question, because our model is different from yours. Ronnie, do you have any suggestions? Ronnie, are you on mute?
Gregory will have to unmute. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that in our model, again, workers are owners, investors are owners, subscribers are purchasers of power. So right. We're trying to create. So we offer our subscriber a discount on the energy. We primarily are contracting with local businesses, food co-ops, other entities, supermarkets. They're purchasing the power from us, comes into the cooperative, and we in turn seek to distribute those funds from the sale of electricity to our members based on their ownership shares in the co-op itself. That's our model.
Right. Okay.
As I said, where we've run into a challenge is when it comes to being able to create a solidarity fund, purchase a share on behalf of a community member and gift that share. Because of security regulations, we're being told we have to go through a crowdfunding platform. And of course, we're trying to control who gets ownership in the co-op because we're trying to direct the benefit to low-income populations in Boston.
Hold on a sec. Again, there are different models for this, and I think what you're trying to do is one model. Loretta Lynch asked a question about where in the country something like this would be possible. In California, there are still lots of regulatory obstacles, but Catherine Millen at the University of Minnesota is working on a project in northern Minnesota, which as a first step relies on a private company that will install solar electricity and then will pay out the difference between, the pay out a portion of their savings, which, on the face of it is not that much different from just simply making a charitable contribution. The electricity, the funds will go to a trust, a solar trust at a nearby Indian reservation, Native American reservation, and they will have a panel of trustees who will then decide how to distribute the funds within that community. This is entirely possible at this point because there are no restrictions on providing solar installations on private businesses. But it's only a first step. This is what we've found so far as practical. An alternative might be in communities that have community utilities. But the regulatory system across the United States is a real patchwork. There's no consistency, and so really doing something like this would also require looking very closely at local situations. I'm not sure that's the kind of response you're looking for, but that's probably the best we can do on short notice. We have a question from Nat, who needs to unmute himself.
Hey, how y'all doing? I just had a question about being able to combine this this initiative, or if anyone has any experience with trying to combine this initiative with the USDA grant money that's available for infrastructure, for this type of infrastructure specifically. Like there's monies available for it to build, solar and wind, and they have other, monies partitioned for other alternative energy sources. So combining the two, does anybody have any experience with getting monies through the government to help to build and resource these initiatives to be able to do universal basic income and provide solar energy to under-resourced folks?
Well, USDA has I know it has, there are these new agrivoltaic programs. And I'm not sure about other solar investment programs. I mean, I've looked at them, but I don't recall them right now. I think the same problem would arise, is that regulatory restrictions would make it difficult to sell electricity to anyone but neighbors. California has this over-the-fence rule, which basically says you can sell electricity to your neighbor, but not across the street, only to adjacent parcels. So I can't answer that, unfortunately.
Well, I just can mention that, Ronnie, that there is a variety of potential sources for funding for projects like this. The Department of Energy, of course, has a community solar projects. There are state initiatives, depending on which state you're operating in. I think this is a very where the funding comes to do this is very specific to the project and what the participants of the initiators of the project feel appropriate. There's also private money, foundation money, for guaranteed incomes and for solar energy, and combining two of those sources might be appropriate for this kind of a project.
Anyone else? Any other questions? All right. Well, if not, you can always contact us. We'd love you to contact us with your ideas. We are, I should say, we are aware of the many regulatory issues around community solar at this point. I won't go into the details about that. And as I suggested, as I said, as a first pilot project, working with someone who owns a piece of property, or is consuming electricity and is willing to arrange some kind of power purchase agreement, and then rebate some of the savings to a trust fund of some sort, might be a first step. As I mentioned, Catherine Millen of the Solar Commons Project at the University of Minnesota, Duluth, is doing that. We're actually collaborating with her. And I imagine there may be similar projects elsewhere, but they may not be publicized. And given the variety of regulatory situations across the United States, it would be of great use to make contact to people who are in other states to explore some of the possibilities here. I will put in the chat once more the contact information. We will be posting the video. We will save the chat and make that available as well. And we're going to make some kind of transcript of the not of the video, of the sound, and we'll let you know about that. All right. Oh, I see a question.
Another question
from Native Roots. You'll have to unmute.
Well,
There we go.
Oh. So I thank you for the information and for the connection so that we can reach back out to you. I just wanted to see, because we are in the middle of developing solar, like at the very beginning, we do have a piece of land, but have not yet put in a solar array, and we are a nonprofit. Are there considerations for us as we go about this, knowing that this is a potential program? Certainly there's a lot of research for us to do, but are you talking like, oh yeah, we're not talking about you quite yet because you're not even at the point? Or is it like, oh no, this is valid, talk with us and we can help you as you develop your solar microgrid program in your community, because we want to do community owned and operated power.
Ronnie, you're on mute.
Yeah. There are a couple of issues here, right? If you have a tribal community and it is generating its own electricity for its members, right? Basically, you want to give them the lowest possible price. The savings are like all savings. If you bank them, you can then spend them. But if you don't, they're not available. So, I mean, that's one consideration. If, in the case of tribal communities, I'm not quite sure about whether they're allowed to sell electricity off the reservation or the renteria or whatever the territory is. And that would be something to explore in your location. So we'd be really interested in pursuing this. Okay. Although I will say, we haven't we haven't been able to do this successfully yet. We did have something in the works in Watsonville, California, and the company got cold feet. I won't say any more about that. So, that's how I would respond.
Oh, I mentioned just one thought that I've had about Native American reservations, which is casinos are really big consumers of electricity. And if you sell your solar electricity to the casino, then the patrons of the casino are paying at a retail rate for the electricity, and you could use the funds from that generated by the casino to fund community projects or basic incomes in the tribal community.
Jane, don't forget to unmute.
Who's speaking?
Jane Pomerantz. There you go.
Hello, hi, it's Ron. I'll be speaking briefly here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
gotcha.
Thank you. We are familiar with Bob's book. Thank you. And thank you for your presentation today. The question I have is in terms of our local energy distributor, 3CE community, Central Coast Community Energy. Have they been approached? I would think since they don't have, we're members, if you live locally within that region, the surplus value doesn't go to stockholders. It's just determined by the public that are in that system. So what my question to you all is, if they've been approached, if some of that surplus value could be utilized for a program like you're proposing?
Let me address that. We have in the past approached 3CE about microgrids and other related ideas. Under the former CEO, the staff was interested, but the operation was not terribly receptive. And at least with 3CE, there hasn't been a move to do local energy generation, to source local energy generation. And well, we should have a conversation about this, Ron, because there's obviously a lot more to it than, than we can explain here. But
it surprises me because that was one of the bases for going.
I know. I'm well aware of that. We haven't, under the new leadership, we have not yet talked to anyone on the staff, and it's probably worth doing that. I think other community choice aggregators across the state, there are others that may be pursuing this, the local sourcing local energy, but you have to remember the principle, right? The CCAs want to sell electricity at the lowest possible price, and not at some higher retail price. So the savings would go to the customer. There wouldn't be, again, there wouldn't be a pool of funds, I think, available to support this kind of program. But again, it's unclear to me what other CCAs in California or elsewhere are doing in terms of local sourcing of energy. Nancy?
Thank you.
Unmute?
Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
Good afternoon. Thank you for presenting. I have a question that I thought I'd raise here since this is just kind of an informational space. I shot a quick note. I'm with the city of Chicago, and I shot a quick note to a colleague who is more of an expert on the climate and energy side. I come from the guaranteed income side. And he sent me this comment, which I was wondering if you could spend, if you're familiar, spend a little bit more time describing in terms of its implication on revenue planning. So he mentioned Illinois is a decoupled state for energy. And it sounds like he was saying there's kind of two means of selling electricity. One is into a market as a wholesale generator, and the other is getting a payment called net metering. If we were to sell the electricity to ComEd as a retail customer. And I was trying to draw a link from that and what you were putting forward at the start about how you could monetize the revenue streams.
Okay, well, that's a long story, another long story. First of all, in California, again, I'm only speaking for California, there is a category of generator called, I think, independent power producer that can sell electricity into the state grid through the entity that manages CAISO, the entity that manages distribution of electricity. So this is like large solar farms and wind farms, some of which are in, well, I have here, Loretta Lynch has said she could answer your question. And as she served on the California CUP community, I'm sorry, I'm having a senior moment here. She would be able to explain that much more. So Loretta, where are you? Go ahead and explain the issue, okay?
Sure. And thank you, Nancy, for answering that, because there is a huge hurdle for people to actually sell their solar into any system, especially a system that has an organized retail market. Illinois is part of what's called the MISO, the Midwest Independent System Operator. California has its own market called the CAISO. But Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, other states are part of the MISO. And that is a federal group, not state controlled, that sets the rules for who can sell energy into the market and who can buy. And at this moment, no RTO allows a community-based organization that is not a co-op or a muni to sell into their markets. So that market-based system is barred to these kinds of community-based, more democratic options that people are trying to produce here. So then you can sell it as a NEM customer, which is net energy metering, and that is rooftop solar. If you've got rooftop solar like I do, I can sell my excess back to the utility. But that's what the presenter was talking about in terms of the low price you get. And California is now, very unfortunately, a leader in screwing over rooftop solar customers, both businesses, groups of people, and homeowners. And so if you can only sell your electricity for 5 to 8 cents, but the utility is charging you here in California 40 to 50 cents a kilowatt hour for your electricity, you can see that the economics aren't really going to work there. It used to be until this last year that Californian rooftop solar owners received more like 25 to 30 cents to sell their excess electricity. But the PUC here slashed that. It's a very controversial and anti-climate decision. So it's state, there the Illinois Corporations Commission would set that rate at which your solar, if you did put rooftop solar on in a community-based organization, they set the rate at which that community gets to sell the solar back. But what I heard on this webinar that was something I hadn't considered yet, and I think is dynamite, is the idea of becoming a co-op. The co-op system dates back to the Depression when farmers didn't have electricity and they came together and cooperated to pay for electricity systems, and then they all benefited from them. And the co-op legal entity is still in federal law. So wouldn't that be interesting if a whole bunch of community-based organizations, and I would argue that tribes would be super set up for this, became co-ops and then really took back their energy destiny. So you own the means of production, and then you benefit from the means of production under the co-op system, which is outside both that Illinois Corporations Commission rubric of they protect utilities, and also outside the federal rubric of those federally organized electricity markets.
Thank you, Loretta. Are there any other, do people have any other questions at this point? Well, in that case, as I said, we will be in touch. You can send us your, oh, Gregory?
I just wanted to just build on the last comments. The Boston Community Solar Cooperative is a cooperative. We're able to sell our electricity at retail prices to our customers. And in our environment as state of Massachusetts, we do have a statewide solar program where we receive additional incentives on top of the basic kilowatt hours for our electricity, depending on how it's deployed, whether it's on a rooftop or there's certain incentives for car canopies and other locations that are not agricultural locations. And we're by the way, we're leveraging tax credits, the IRA tax credits, to finance our development, as well as using government funds. So it is all possible. We're operational, so we're happy to talk to anybody about the model we have here. Our challenge has been more around how do we get shares into the hands of low-income community members who aren't workers in the cooperative. That's really been our challenge.
Well, we definitely want to talk to you. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, Loretta, do you still have a question, or is that from before? No. Okay. All right. Well,
let me just mention, Ronnie, before you sign off,
including
if anyone wants a copy of my book, Solar Dividends, which provides a lot more background information and fleshes out this idea a great deal more than just a short presentation, please contact us. I'll be happy to send you a free copy. I'm not trying to sell books here. I just want to get the word out. So if you want a copy of the book, just let me know and I'll send it either in PDF immediately, or if you want a hard copy, I can send that too.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody for coming, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Yes. Thank you.